Sitting by the Fire, a podcast on ancestral wisdom, medicine, heritage, and transformation by Anna Solyom. Hi everyone, a very warm welcome in this new chapter of Sitting by the Fire. And this time, my guest is my dear colleague from Ancestral Medicine. Again, we're talking about ancestors. So here we talk about ancestral medicine as well. Tsepo Bollwinkel Keele. I hope I pronounced your name well. Thank you. And it's really a joy to welcome you, Tsepo, in this series of chats. And I know that there are many things in your life that could be very interesting for many of our listeners. I like to put this question first to my invitees. Who are you? I know that's a very big question. We could go on a non-duality quest to find ourselves, but it's like, what is in you right now that you feel it's important to tell? Who are you at this moment?
So first, thank you for the invitation. This is interesting and I like it. And then, who am I? I'd like to start with situating myself. So I am, in the moment, I'm in a small town close to Hamburg in Germany. I've been living for the last, I think, 35, 36 years. It's called Lüneburg. I am a South African in German exile. Maybe this is the best description of my positionality in regards to place. So I'm living here for a long time, but it is not home. So, and it didn't become home, and I think it won't. Yeah, that's a big part of me and my identity to navigate that, to balance that. And also placing myself is like placing myself between two continents. So my ancestors are on the one side, South Africans, people from the indigenous Khoisan folks, and people from the Sotho nation, one of the many black nations of South Africa. This is one side of myself, and the other side is a all European mix of everything, German, British, some Scandinavian. I had a white German mother. So that's the two sides of myself. And I think my life is quite shaped by balancing those poles, which are quite far from each other, not only geographically. Yeah.
Mm.
And in regards to my work, I am a happily retired musician. I've been for nearly 40 years playing in an opera orchestra here in Germany as an oboist, and I loved my job, and I'm also happy to be retired. It's an exhausting job and stressful, so I'm finished with that and fine with that and grateful for that time. And most of the times I have been working as a musician. I have been also working as a, say, educator in issues of social justice, more and more focusing on earth justice in it. And since this very specific pandemic year, um, I joined the Ancestral Medicine Network and did the practitioner training, and actually I'm doing now the teachers training. Um, so I'm working with clients and groups on ancestral issues, which is a real big joy in my life. Yeah. And otherwise, there's my beloved wife, there are two adult kids, there is a very old dog, and a beautiful garden. So it's a good life, I think.
Yes, it resonates in me as a good life, especially when I look at you as you speak about it, how you embody the goodness in this life. Because what you mentioned, how to navigate the differences between lands and relationships and maybe lineages as well, that you embody in yourself between what is home, living in exile, how to be true to yourself by holding the space that your personal story takes up. It doesn't sound easy for me to navigate those differences because there's huge differences between culturally, as much as I know,
Mhm.
between Germany and German and European ancestry and South African ancestry and African indigenous peoples' ancestry. So
Yes.
I think my first question goes to this direction. Is that okay?
Mm. Yeah, sure.
What 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 helped you to find balance between these two polarities?
Mm. It was a longer process, so it didn't work out for, I think, the longest time of my life, um, to find the balance. Um, Maybe the experiences of being in exile and not allowed to enter South Africa, and the overall racism, which is very alive here and everywhere else, um, shaped me in the direction to only embrace the African side and just ignore the rest, or feeling uncomfortable with it, with the other half. No idea how to integrate that. And it took a long time to really find the balance. Yeah, find the balance, and all see also this suffering of, say, people of European ancestries, white peoples, and um, honor those parts of myself too. Was Yeah, it was hard work actually, and took a long time, and maybe somehow a closing point in this was the ancestral work with my own ancestors, um, where I just watched and observed my ancestors having no problems with that. And they were like, hey, child, doesn't matter. Keep cool. Yeah, calm down, please. Um,
Mm.
and so I calmed down, and yeah, was able really to integrate and somehow to hold both sides. Yeah, and also to navigate both, minimum both, maybe it's 3 or 4 different cultures I'm part of. Yeah, and actually right now I feel blessed and rich with that. Yeah, so the focus shifted of it in the direction of embracing that, and not so much um, being in a somehow scarcity. I've lost this and I didn't get that and I'm missing this. That's all real, but it lost a lot of importance. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. That was a journey, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It sounds like a journey.
Mm.
And as you say, it was an important point to engage in ancestral work.
Mm.
How did you come to consider working with your ancestors?
Mm. That was also a long process. It started very early in life as a young person, with this big longing to be somehow connected to my South African cultures, both of them, which was at that time totally impossible because of politics, apartheid, and also German foreign politics, no contact. Seeing the situation in Europe in the 1960s, 70s, there was also no knowledge, nothing. I was really like a cow grazing in the libraries, looking for any source of knowledge. How do my own people relate to the world? Who do they live? How are their rituals? Whatever. And was nearly nothing to find. And if something, then it was shaped by the view of, yeah, white Christian European missionaries bias. Yeah. Um, so there was this big longing. And I figured out that a very important part of being a person of African descent is a specific relation to ancestors. So
Mm.
how to get to know how to do that, cut off from this knowledge. And I tried several things, tried to find anybody also in exile or of African descent here or somewhere in Europe to teach me. And I found quite a lot of people, but all of them not of South African heritage. So from different cultures. So my continent is really vast. We have 54 nation states and about 2,500 different ethnicities. So that's vast. And I didn't want to appropriate a culture which wasn't mine. So it didn't work out in this way.
Mm.
And I was sitting with that. And then I got times shifted. African literature, African science was accessible for me a bit more, but that was all theoretical, so I couldn't work with that really. Was more this anthropological point of view. So I was sitting with that. And then when I'm homesick, I still do so, and I ever all the time did, I go to music. So I had a long night on YouTube. One day, I think in late 2019 or early 2020, just listening to so-called traditional South African music and specifically Sotho music. And as you know, as it works in YouTube, there are some different new videos popping up, and there's some temptation to just click and see what that is. So I had this video coming up this is a speech of a very interesting African Nigerian professor, a TED talk. The professor was Bayo Akomolafe. So I was like, okay, maybe that's interesting. So I will look this video and then go to bed. It was late in the night. I looked one video and was intrigued by the intelligence and the fierceness of Bayo Akomolafe, and then watched the next and the next and the next, and it was, I don't know what, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I said, okay, one last video and then I go to bed. And so, yes, this is the last video with Bayo. And I was so disappointed because in this video, Bayo was just introducing another person and saying, this is my friend and brother, and please listen to him. So, have a nice day. Bye. And I was like, oh, damn. Okay. Honoring Bayo Akomolafe. Okay, I will listen to whomever. So, the person on stage was a white cis dude. Damn. I actually stopped listening to white cis people, no, white cis male people, um, some years ago because they have been talking so much the last centuries where I was a bit fed up. And it took some discipline to keep watching and listening just to honor Bayo. If Bayo says, this is my brother, so maybe that person has to say something interesting. Let's listen. And this person was talking about ancestors. Oh, so I was awake, talking how to reconnect in a way which in that moment seemed not too much influenced or appropriated from non-white cultures. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is something new. Who is this guy? And I wrote the name, Daniel 4, never heard. So then there was the website. So I went at 5 o'clock in the morning to the website. Reading this was like, oh, this is interesting. You should try it, Tsepo. Yeah, so I tried an online course in reconnecting, and I did a lot of research in advance because I really hate appropriation, cultural and other forms of appropriation. So I wanted to be really safe. I wanted to be in a place welcoming to different cultures, experiences, and I found that place. And I did this course connected to the first lineage of ancestors of mine, and it worked beautifully. And so I was in it. Yeah. And so it was quite logical to as a person working in my field of justice and shifting slightly more and more in the direction of an animist view of justice, to say, okay, I have to learn this. So really profoundly, and I want to integrate it into my professional practice. So I did the practitioner's training, and was a big deal. And since then, I'm having clients. I'm working with small groups in this issue, and it's somehow integrated also in all of the justice work I'm doing. Yeah, there's no workshop, no teaching without referring to the ancestors and hopefully making people curious about their own ancestry and how to reconnect. Yeah, well, actually, it works quite well. Yeah, and yeah, that was that. Um, so maybe long nights on YouTube are a good idea.
Sometimes when they
Sometimes.
take you to the right rabbit hole
Yeah.
to discover things, it's I like synchronicities. I'm a lover of synchronicities, and I really love how even technology, this modern smart thing that we engage with, sometimes works as a channel if something a lot bigger field or support. Speaking about ancestors, because I hold to this belief that sometimes everything can become a channel, even objects that doesn't have a soul, because they are connected to us. So in that way, they do have some secondary consciousness, because you know there are people who can just shut down computers because they don't like technology. I've been working with some people like that, and it's really difficult to hold a meeting on Zoom because it always starts. And there's no other reason behind it. Just really, they have an energy that kills technology. So and so there's a relationship with that. And what I'm going to with that I love that you say that it came to your justice work, how ancestors and us honoring and the other than human relationship with an animist perspective that you've been discovering through bio. Oh, so bad at saying this name.
Bioaccumulate.
Bioaccolomafe. Thank you for teaching me that. Yeah. And I did follow him very little. So I know not as deeply his person, but I know that the teachings are very touchy. So
Yes.
even I feel touched by that. And I think that where I want to go from here, if you agree, is to explore a little bit this very fiery area of social justice.
Mhm.
And in the understanding that what's the difference in social justice when you include only humans to when you include the earth and the other than humans and the ancestors? What shifts?
Well, the big shift is that, for me, that social justice, which is only focused on living humans, is just unjust, you know? Um, and in a very practical way. So in my really long experience, the thing with social justice movements and discussions is, if it is human-centered only, it tries, no, it comes into a trap, which is actually perpetuating the systems we are fighting against. Yeah, it. I had to watch it again and again, and I tried to fight it in a framework focused on humans only, and didn't succeed anyhow over so many years in a painful way. So to include the inherent rights of non-humans, and not only the living ones, but also the ancestors. Um, all this we call nature, a word I really dislike. I don't call the trees nature. They are people, so they have culture. The animals have cultures. The trees and the rocks and the rivers and whatever exists have culture. I would even include the so-called things, even the man-made things,
Oui.
create their own cultures and are cultures. But well, maybe that's a bit extremist, like that. Um, so this shifts a lot, yeah, including that. Actually, I started my political work in the field of environmental justice. And in the very beginning of that movement, um, just shocked by those report of the Club of Rome in 1972, I think. I read it as a, well, I went to school that time, and I was like, damn, so we are really on the edge, on the brink of extinction, of killing ourselves and everything else. There's something to do. Let's do it. That's political. That's radical. We have to do something. And we did it and formed um, parties and corporations and all this shit, and ended with the so-called Green Deal and stuff like that, which is just a perpetuation with a nice outfit outside. Yeah.
Mhm.
And inside, not only the work didn't happen, but also I experienced and watched how we, the people inside, were really acting in the same patterns
Mm.
which we were criticizing on the outside.
Oh,
And
yeah.
for me, it was clear, okay, that doesn't work. Same in so many movements I've been involved with, mostly anti-racism, but also queer movements. It's always, in my view, the same problem. If you are human-centered, if you don't include all the other beings, yeah,
Mm.
if you don't include our ability to feel and to sense much more, if you cut yourself up of that, well, then we are in the systems and part of the systems of modernity, which are harmful, totally harmful. And
So,
to find a way out, I think this opening up and re-relate to all the other beings is really an important thing. So that's a big difference, you see. Um, and there are so many movements in that direction since, yeah, say about 15 years or so, like to bring the body, the human body into it, into justice work in somatic experiencing and stuff like that, to bring joy back. Yeah, not fighting against, but having joy, dancing, singing, um, have rituals were popping up everywhere.
I
Most of
think,
them a bit awkward, but they were popping up. Yeah. So,
yeah.
but there was still, it took some time until for quite a lot of people, the focus shifted also to the non-humans. Yeah. How
Mm.
can I'm working for the survival of whales, but I don't accept whales as people and culture? How should that work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's for me the big difference. Yeah.
I agree. And as you spoke, I have this sensation like we're also learning to relate with the human body
Mm-hmm.
from the perspective of joy, recognition that we don't need to fight, that we can go together. So it's not like an enemy who wants to send me a headache or anything to fuck up whatever my day has before, but maybe there is a deeper relationship that we can get. And maybe as there are these recovery movements, let's call it
Mm-hmm.
like that, like recovering our animal parts, because the body is our animal part, like we're really um, mammals that have necessities and so on, social necessities as social animals and so on. Maybe opening our senses, it's really part of this rediscovering the body, reconnecting with the body on a more conscious level. And just another step from there is like recognizing that our body cannot exist alone. It's connected to many other beings, also to the beings that we're eating and we're feeding our body, for instance. And that some of these beings are animals, others are not. And all of these beings have culture. I'm always fascinated when there are news from um, the cephalopods, for example, like the polyps in Australia, that they discovered that they have a city. So they actually live together in a city, which a polyp city, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, come on, it's like something that we would not expect from a being that we don't believe are conscious, has feelings, and can have a culture. And the same way they are discovering, so-called scientifically, that whales have a culture. So I think that with all the difficulties in our times, we're also like experiencing something that we could read in a science fiction book, which I love. I really love that.
Mm-hmm.
Also in neurosciences and also in nature sciences. So like discovering that trees can actually communicate by the root system that they have, and the fungi have an important role, and especially the fungi that actually helped plants to take a root in this ground and the earth, and that they could sprout, and they created all life. So like
Yeah.
there is a lot more connection, I think, that we've been taught in schools.
Yeah. Yeah. Schools are a big problem. They are not only human centric, but also brain centric. They are Eurocentric and, oh, well, a lot of shit, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So the first is to come out from our brain-centered view, materialistic brain-centered view,
individualistic too.
individualistic to individualism, like sitting in our own little castle of
Mm.
personality and uh, knowing that only our way is the good way. And this brings me to another question, because we've been in the same cohort in the Ancestral
Mm.
Medicine Practitioner network. We're also studying together now in the teacher training, and I know that you do sometimes talks and presentations, and the one I listened to was really beautiful in the network, and I stayed with the title with that, The Danger of a Single Story.
Yeah.
Single point of view. And I think it's really relevant because in the ancestral work, what I learned as well, and I think it's something that we can say that it can be general in that way, that the story that I hold on to is not always the story that my ancestors have. And sometimes
Totally.
it's difficult for my mind to actually accept that things are not as I was taught by my family, things are not as I feared or I wanted. What can you say about that?
Totally. In the work with clients on their rediscovery of their ancestry and going in real contact with them, that's sometimes the biggest obstacle, that they cling to the stories, even if it's their own story. This, I knew my grandmother and she was like this and this and this, so she's that, is a dead person too.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes sometimes a lot of time and persuasion to tell people, wait, being dead does not mean the end of developing. It's another state of being, and people still change. And it's really important. So maybe your grandma, in your eyes, has been like that as a living one, but this doesn't say anything about who she's now. And let's go with fresh senses into contact with them. Well, that's really a big obstacle, and it takes sometimes quite a lot of time, and people always fall back in their stories. But with time, I get a sense for it, and then I stop them and say, wait, you're in the story. Stop. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and it's
How do
also,
you recognize?
it's not only stories like of known people, like, or stories you heard from your parents about your grandparents. It's also, of course, cultural stories.
Oh, yes.
So for me, with a so-called mixed heritage, that is the story of the colonizer and the colonized, which is historically accurate, but in the single experience of a life of one of my ancestors, maybe that unfolded quite different. Yeah. Or living in Germany, of course, one of the big things here is the story of the, say, now, for now, generations, grandparents who have been Nazis and so. Yep, that's real, that's true, that's hurtful. And to really get to know how they are now, maybe they had the beautiful possibility to change, to even repair the harms they did, and they were quite a lot, yeah. And talking of my ancestry, to be able to face, say, something like the collaboration of some of my ancestors with the colonizers,
Mm.
it's a thing, yeah. And to discuss that, and also to witness how they are working on their mistakes and the harms they did, for repair. Yeah, that's a big thing. And the stories of single people and also the stories of larger groups are much more different than we are taught at school or in the history books or even by our living relatives. Yeah, and it
Mm.
takes some courage
Mm.
to face that. Yeah,
Mm.
and to be willing and able to relate in a new way. Yeah.
Yes.
But actually, I guarantee then the fun starts. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. What do you think? What is in us in humans that we teach a single-minded story that we want to believe? and sometimes it's not true, but we do want it to be true. Why do we do that?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but I think we have a tendency to be totally overcomplicated.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and then the other extreme kicks in to simplify. Yeah, and the single stories are working so fine for the powers.
Oh,
Yeah, are
yes.
working so fine for the systems. We are living in, if you see the media or educational systems, we are living in this one single story of the success of, say, capitalism and free market and all the stuff and the badness of everything else, the success of being civilized, whatever that means,
Yes.
meaning you be allowed to do genocide, or what is civilization actually? Well, whatever. So that are single
Yeah.
stories. We are in it. We are surrounded by it, shaped by it. The, to get access to all the other stories, or even just to some of them, takes courage and takes some effort. And it's so easy. It's so easy to stay with the single stories and enjoy a nice night at Netflix or whatever,
Yeah.
um, and stay in the stories. Even actually, yesterday we had a family binge watching day. Um, Binge watching Star Trek. We love it. And sometimes it's just how open you are to perception. Of course, Star Trek is the colonial story of to conquer and to civilize and all this horrible shit. But in it, there are a lot of questions. How is that really the right way? Is this just, um, can you perceive the perspective of so-called others and all this stuff? It's all in it. Maybe it takes some training to see it and then to more muse on that questions and enjoy those parts of this long, long series than, well, this conquer
Yeah.
actually quite boring story. Yeah.
How can we train ourselves to perceive?
So I bring in again Bayo Akumulave, who is quite often speaking of there's something like a veil between our single stories
Mm-hmm.
and the beautiful rest of all the world, the universe. Um, but Bayo says, well, if you are open, you see this veil, or sometimes it's more a wall. There are a lot of cracks in it.
Mm-hmm.
Allow yourself not only to have a look through the cracks, that doesn't work, but to jump. And there's 100% no guarantee. So the esoteric story, single esoteric story is jump and you will fly like a bird and you will be happy and go to heaven, whatever. Sorry, that's just bullshit. There's
Sometimes, oh,
yeah, yeah. There's no guarantee. Maybe you will develop wings and fly. Maybe you will fall down and crash. And mostly it's something in between. Yeah.
yeah,
But actually, whatever is on the other side of the cracks, for the burdened and oppressed humans, and we are all burdened and oppressed by the systems, it's, in my view, the only way, and it's quite attractive. I'm curious. I'm a curious person, so I'm jumping.
mhm.
Otherwise, I wouldn't sit the whole night on YouTube and see what
It's
some
not.
crazy people say and do a course with a white dude as a leader and learn a lot and whatever. Um, that all have been quite big cracks for me. And also bringing what I learned, what I experienced to people was a big crack. To be open with that, to be open also with an animistic worldview, which actually I had all my life. But I'm open with that, and I'm teaching that only since, well, about 5 years. It costs a lot. You are not so scientific, you know. You are not invited to university with this, and I've
Yeah.
been before quite often. So that's a crack, and maybe you see the crack on my bank account, or maybe sometimes in my health, or whatever, or even in family relations. Why are you again doing the training and care for the kids more, or bring the rubbish bin down, whatever? Um, so jumping into the cracks, and that's maybe a very black experience. Um, our ancestors, oppressed, colonized, enslaved, they really very often there was only one possibility, which was jump, and whatever is on the other side can't be worse. And my invitation is, or my analysis is, actually for everybody, maybe except 5 billionaires, whatever's on the other side is better then. So let's jump. And I offer opportunities to practice that small jumps. Like
Yeah.
when I'm doing workshops, I'm doing it mostly in a 3 days format. In the very early morning, I gather people, the participants outside, and say, well, and now go and have a talk for 50 minutes with a plant. How?
Yes.
What? Who? Is this, well, let me show you. It's quite easy. You just let your senses guide you to a plant, and we say that is something. Say there's some affinity, and then be still. Introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Tsepo, and then shut up, be quiet, and start listening. And I will call you in 50 minutes and see what happens. And we do this all 3 days of the workshop. And I will maybe talk a little bit more, or people share their experiences and see everybody heard their plants in different ways, or felt their plants, or sensed the plants, whatever. You say, wow. And for quite a lot of them, that's a big crack. Yeah. And then we sit on a table and eat and say, well, you know, we are eating a relative. You just talk to them and now they are on the table. You will eat them. How's that? Be relational. Accept that you will be somehow eaten one day too. It's part of life. That's a crack, you know.
Absolutely.
Allow yourself the possibility that one day you will compost, like the compost here in the garden. Allow yourself to experience the beauty. Just sensely, you know, smell it. Even some people are brave enough because I invite them, eat it, eat the compost. Isn't it tasty? One day, this is you. One day, quite
And
closer, this is me.
exactly.
Aren't we tasty? You know? And this is all opening some soft, really soft cracks. And from that we
Yeah. That's an
um
invitation of the senses to be present and not
yeah,
hiding behind a book, a TV show, or the mobile, closed in our words, but really like
yeah,
relating, coming back to relationship.
yeah, yeah. And
Mm,
somehow sometimes, and that's interesting because quite a lot of people, if they are brave enough to jump, feel it's quite easy to connect to other than humans.
yes, but this is
And
the framework that we've been told that you shouldn't do that because then you're crazy. You're not
yeah,
going to be let into some rooms. and so on. And then you will have, I don't know, like a mark on your head that you're to be avoided, all the stuff like
Yeah,
discrimination because you want to relate with others. That's also
right. Yeah, right. I
for me.
just had a medical examination where there was one question for mental health was like, are you talking to dead people? I was like, yes, I do. And oh, damn, it's so funny. I had
Oh
so
my
much
God. Oh
fun
my
with that. Yeah,
God. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care, but that's
Yeah.
the thing. But also, my experience is that for quite a lot of folks, and I include myself, actually, it's easier to talk to other than humans if you are open to it than to be in contact with humans.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
specifically for me because I'm an artist, but also for neurotypical people, humans are really a weird animal,
yeah,
and
I
it's so
agree.
difficult to be with humans and to somehow navigate communication
And
and
relationships.
relationships. So sometimes there
Both.
is there's you can exercise a bit and form some skills in relating to other than humans. And then for me, the next step is, and then let's relate to our ancestors. That's also a relationship, but mostly much easier than to living family. Living
Absolutely.
family. Damn. Yeah, my mom, my dad, or my sisters, they are so weird, and I don't like them. We don't have any contact, and no, and they hurt me. And yeah, 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 sure, sure. So let's train all these abilities with other ones and in being in contact with really well ancestors.
Really well and wise
Yeah,
ancestors who may actually help you to understand what is the pattern that's playing out in your
right,
very
right,
personal life. Because I
right.
see repetition. I see repetition
Yeah,
every time.
everywhere. Mm.
And even unconsciously we're repeating. I had a live situation in this summer that was very difficult for me, and it was related to some humiliation,
Mm.
which is really not a good experience. I think we can all agree in that. And I discovered that one of my great grandmothers who actually took their own lives might have been in a similar situation that resulted in taking her life. Because for women, it was really difficult in the 1930s in Hungary.
Mm.
Very unusual to get a divorce. They divorced with my great grandfather, and this is my Jewish family side. We don't know what happened. It didn't, it was not told. So there's
Mm.
gaps in the story. That's a single story where many things are missing. But
Yeah,
still, when we speak about blood ancestors, if you don't do ancestral work and you're listening to us, what is it about? It's about really, you have the blood that your ancestors carried. We have the DNA. So it's really like a living connection in this living body as
right.
long as we are alive. So sometimes, more than not, we are actually able to listen inside us for stories that were never told.
Right.
And I really like these moments, these aha moments when my mind goes like, oh yes, this is a possibility. And there is a body reaction.
Mm.
And I say, okay, that really is a possibility. And I'm so glad that I'm shown and understood that because I know what are the risks that I'm facing. So it's like
Right.
really having that overview of difficulties that, okay, that's something that's in the nervous system of this family or this I don't know, this family system that I am embodying in this very moment. So I think it's
Mm.
really important what you're saying, the learning to relate with those who are without body, because it will help to deal with all those who are in body, family or other than family, relatives,
Yes.
humans, I think. So it's really, really
Mm.
liberating in a way.
Yeah, I think, and um, one aspect is that you can see ancestor work as just remembering. It's a way to open up the body and the soul to remember because it's all inside of us, all the experiences of the ones before. And not only the humans, but also we have been, I don't know what apes before, and before that we were something between fish and not fish, and then we have been fish, and then we have been microbes and whatever, and then we have been
Really?
particles, stardust, whatever, and it's all stored inside my body. Really, actually, just biologically, which
Yes.
is weird, but it is, yeah. And so this is also an art in remembering, not only reconnecting, and that's real, this reconnection, but it's also remembering
Yeah.
to
It,
be fully a body of this, a body of this beautiful earth. It's remembering, and if we are lucky, we will have moments really totally embody that we are Earth. We are Earth, and we are the stars, and we are the universe. And the universe, and the stars, and the Earth is us. There is no real difference. All the difference is so margin, you know, so percent, small of percentage. It doesn't matter anyhow. And in that moment, I this is my experience, I am not able to harm another part of myself. That would be totally weird, you know?
absolutely. That's like cutting it off your own hand.
Yeah, so that's a big difference. And so this is one part, I think, of this experience of having an ancestor related and animist view um, onto things. Yeah.
Mm.
And maybe another part is that in reconnecting with ancestors and perceiving their interest in our world, their love to us, their children and grandchildren, um, there's also this element of how dare I not to care for what is now and for work for a more just, more friendly, more embodied being on this beautiful planet. How dare I? My ancestors are waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also, and that's part of the inheritance we
Yeah.
really carry. Yeah,
Yeah. And it's important, I think, to name, for me, it feels important that it's not only difficulties that we inherit, because we
yeah,
inherit blessings as well. So our ancestors have done something really well because they survived.
yeah,
Okay. So they know, they've known
mm-hmm.
gifts that they pass down because this is how evolution happens. You pass down whatever you survived. So
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of gifts in that. And I also got reminded as you spoke about, I know that it's a quote. I don't know from who is it because I recently saw it in a meme, and sometimes people don't put source on that. But it's
Mm-hmm.
really like that the Zen master speaks with the student, and the student asks the Zen master, "So how shall I treat others?" And the answer is, "There are no others."
Right. Yeah,
And it's like,
that's it.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think beyond the humanness, beyond the human perspective, there are no others. So everybody, just as you said, everybody really is belonging together in the deeper understanding that evolutionally it's just
Yeah,
us.
yeah, it is us. There's so therefore this idea of individualism is so crazy, actually.
It's so
Yeah,
crazy. Yes.
it's
Yeah.
totally crazy. And
Yeah.
it implies always this othering the other here and the other there. We see the results now everywhere. And most of humans and all the other beings are suffering because of the results of that really bad idea.
Yeah.
Um, I just want to put my finger on one aspect. In talking about survival, yes, it's right. There are the blessings, and and things worked out actually. Otherwise, we wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But in the single story of this reality, survival is a very important task, more important than anything else. And it's seen as an individual survival, yeah,
Oh,
or
yeah.
survival of your family or your nation or your race or
Absolutely.
quite a lot of our ancestors, quite a lot of folks now, were very consciously choosing not to survive. They offered their life for the greater good, and which is in the patterns of the now of modernity is totally crazy and wrong, and it's against this survival mode. But actually, and I think we are right now on the brink of times where it will be again maybe necessary to, I use this old-fashioned word, sacrifice
Mm.
your own life or well-being or whatever for the greater good, which not means to go to war as a soldier and fight somebody else and kill them, but maybe to protect your neighbors, even if it could hurt you, or cost your life, because they are us, yeah, or to protect a forest,
Oh, yes.
because the tree culture, they are us. And sometimes it brings you, so here in Germany, it brings you into prison, um, and to debt. You have to pay horrible fines. And sometimes, actually, right now, it costs even people their lives. So that, and you could frame that as well, they didn't survive, so they weren't successful. No, that's wrong. It's just, I want to frame this idea of survival in different ways than modernity does. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's
Thank you.
important to really know. Yeah.
It is very important because we didn't make through alone. Never.
Mm.
So
Ma-
there's
uh,
always others
Yeah.
where we've collaborated with to say so it's humans and other than humans. So it's really important to point out. Thank
Yeah.
you for doing that.
Uh, Just a story,
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
story
Cheers.
comes in mind. It's an ancestor story. So the grandfather of my wife, one of the grandfathers, um, I don't know the English word for it. So he was working with stones. Um,
Mm.
and Then the Nazi time started, and this area he was working for was changed into a concentration camp. And all the workers, former workers, were forced to become SS men and working now in the concentration camp. He didn't want to do that. And the only way, he was a very simple person, yeah, a peasant. Um, the only way not to do that was to go to the army and fight in the war. And so he became soldier, left his wife, his two small children, 1 year, 3 year old, I think, um, became a soldier. And because the authorities knew this one became soldier because he didn't want to be part of the Nazi machinery, so they put him to the East Front, which was somehow a death sentence. So he died in this Battle of Stalingrad. And he knew he would die. So he sacrificed his life. He sacrificed the joy of his family. He sacrificed somehow his children who had to grow up without a father, his wife who had to manage to raise a family without a man. For a greater good, not to become a Nazi murderer. The story told about him was he went to the army as early as possible, so he was a really bad Nazi. Yeah, and only after really a long time, in the last years, there were his letters found, and the story changed totally. Yeah, and this had a big impact to all of his descendants. One of his sons is already dead since years. The other one has dementia. I don't think he gets anything, but there are cousins a lot. And they got to know the real story of their grandfather and uncle, and it shifted the whole family system. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's also the thing in going to really get to know these ancestors. And this specific ancestor, one of the grandfathers of my wife, is now in the whole family a very positive force. Yeah. And so therefore it's not always a physical survival. Yeah. Maybe it's somehow like a moral survival. If you want to use this word, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think it somehow goes into the direction of how to word it. How you can stand your face in the mirror and how you can go to sleep with a heart that is at peace.
Yeah. And also how to become a good ancestor yourself one day.
Yes, how
Yeah.
to become a good ancestor yourself one
Yeah.
day, because we are the future ancestors today.
Yeah. Yeah. It's to me very close. I'm an old person, so it's close, and that's important. It's important to really put some effort in it to create my own being in a way that I can transition smoothly and then become an ancestor and care for the world from another realm.
That sounds like a beautiful sentence to wrap up our our chapter today. And here's a prayer for all of us to find our strength to be those ancestors our children and grandchildren will look up with this thankful eyes, that thank you for doing that for the greater good in that way. I don't know if that's the right word, like thankful eyes, but it's like maybe it's really like looking up to someone in a way. Like, I don't know if I would have been able to do that, but you showing me an example gives me courage to do what I need to do when my time comes to choose.
Yeah, yeah,
In
yeah.
that,
I'm with that. I'm with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you, Tsepo, for being here with us.
Yeah,
It
you're
was
welcome.
cool to have you, and thank you everyone who stick with us for this little less than an hour, around an hour. And we'll be back maybe one day with you again, Tsepo. Thank
Yes.
you.
I thank you and wishing you a beautiful and fruitful time in life. And a
Yeah.
good death later. Much later, of course.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.